All right, we're out in the garage now. I've already gone ahead and got the car up on jack stands and got the rear wheels off. And that's really about the only prep work you're gonna need to do to be able to change out these toe links. This is actually a very straightforward and simple part to change out. All you're going to need is a 17mm socket, a 17mm open-ended wrench to act as a backup on one of the bolted joints. And then you might need a screwdriver or a pry bar to help get the old component out and maybe to move the heim joints in the new RV6 links when you put them in. So here in a minute, I'll pop my head under the car and show what needs to be performed in order to get the OEM arms out of the car and get the RV6 links in. Now, when I go down there, I am doing some other suspension modifications at this time. So there are some other components that aren't in the vehicle that would normally be. Rest assured, you can do this completely independent of anything else, and you do not have to take off any other components in order to have access to pull these links out. So let's pop onto the car and take a look. Okay, so as I mentioned, I have some things missing here. So I don't have the lower control arm installed right now, and my sway bar is just kind of pivoted out of the way for the time being. Even if those were in place, that's fine. The lower arm that you're gonna be removing is right here, and that's actually several inches forward of the lower control arms. So here at the outboard connection to the rear knuckle, you've got the bolt where you will need a 17mm socket, and that will drive out towards the front of the car. And you will need your 17mm open-ended wrench here just to hold the nut in place when you're doing that. On the inboard side connection here to the subframe, it is the same 17mm socket that's going to drive out this bolt, but it's actually an integrated threaded stud that's welded into the subframe itself. So you don't need a backup wrench on this at all. And it's just those two bolts and the bar will drop out. It is a very tight fit here at the knuckle, I've found. So that's where I say you may need to be able to get a pry bar in there to kind of wedge the part out of its position. Let's get the parts out of the car and get the new RV6 links installed. So I'm going to start with the outboard bolt here. It doesn't really matter. You should be able to take out either the inboard or the outboard one in any order. Now that the bolts are out, you can see the bar is still in place. So that's where I say a screwdriver can help kind of massage this out of place. There we go. If you are doing that, leveraging down here, just make sure you steer clear of the brake line and any of the harnesses in the backside. Okay, now that the lower arm is disconnected from the subframe and the rear knuckle, we're gonna go ahead and install the RV6 Performance adjustable toe links. Again, these are really nice. I love the wrinkle red finish on them. They feel solid. Just a couple things to note when these are going in your car. You do have just the one end with the adjustable integrated hex pattern on it. That's actually going to go on the outboard side. And you'll be able to tell this because the spacers in these heim joints between both ends are different lengths. It'll be pretty obvious if you go and try and put this in the wrong way. At least one end will not fit. Don't force it, just flip the bar around and make sure your hex portion here is towards the outboard side. So I'm going to go try and get this in the car, and I'm going to start with the inboard side and I have it hanging out of the subframe and then pivot it up into the rear knuckle. And when you're The first one is pretty easy because you can maneuver the bar and get the heim joint lined up however you need it. But when you go to get the outboard side in the rear knuckle, you may have to stick a screwdriver in through here and just gently manipulate your spacers in the heim joint to make sure they are exactly square to the faces on the knuckle. I'm gonna go ahead and start reusing the original hardware and get this back into the car. These are, again, just 17 millimeter sockets or wrenches. The inboard one is tight. A ratcheting 17 millimeter wrench would be ideal. Okay, I'm not tightening this all the way. I wouldn't even say it's hand tight right now. I want to still be able to have the ability to pivot and manipulate this bar. So I'm going to swing it up to the rear knuckle, get the heim joint lined up, and get the last bolt in. The bolt that came out of this joint does have a washer. Make sure the washer is against the bolt head and not on the nut side. All right, and once you get it lined up, it'll slide pretty freely in the joint. It's just, you have to get it square. And then again, it's just a 17 millimeter backup on the nut, 17 millimeter socket to tighten. And I'm just gonna get this hand tight now and come back and do the final torque later.